Controlling which modules and procedures can use variables is known as scope. And there are 3 different levels of scope to consider. There's procedure level, private, and public level. Procedure level is when you declare a variable between the sub and the in-sub keywords. And this means that the variables are only available in that procedure where you declared it, and it can't be used or accessed outside of that procedure. Private level is when you declare variables in the general declarations area, and you use the keyword of dim or private. And that means that those variables can only be accessed by the procedures that are within the same code module only. And then there's public level. A variable is public when you declare it in the general declarations area with the public keyword instead of dim. And this means that those variables can be accessed by any procedure, whether it's in the same module or in a different module. So let me go through some exercises to show you how scope works. And I want you to open up the file called scope that's in the resources section for this lecture. And once you have it open, go ahead and hit Alt F11 on your keyboard. And I want you to head over to Module 1. So in your Project Explorer, find your Modules folder and double-click on Module 1. So I've started this one for you, but let me explain what's going on. I have created 2 procedures, one to demonstrate procedure level and the other to demonstrate private scope. And if you take a look at the first procedure, I have defined a variable called scope test, and it has a string data type. Also within the same procedure, I have defined scope test as the text. This variable was defined in procedure level scope. And there's also a message box that displays the text defined in scope test. Now, message boxes are interactive functions, and they're going to be covered a little bit later on in this course. But for now, know that message box is going to display a message for whatever follows that code or that keyword. And in this case, it's going to display a message box that has the text that's been assigned to scope test. So if I click inside that procedure and then run it, like you would expect, a message box appears, and it has the message that I defined in that procedure. All right, I'll go ahead and click on OK to take me back to my Visual Basic. Now, notice that private level scope, that sub-procedure, also has a message box that calls on scope test. So if I click inside there and go ahead and run this, I get a compile error. It says variable not defined. So even though this procedure, private level scope, wants to use the variable scope test, I haven't defined it within the procedure. Right now it's only defined in the first procedure. Let me go ahead and click on OK and stop this from being in break mode. There we go. Now, when you want a variable to be available in all procedures in the module, you want to have that as a private level scope. And some people also call it a module level. So what you need to do is you need to declare it in the general declarations area at the top of the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my declared variable from this procedure. I'll just cut that out. Come up here to the top to the general declarations, paste it in, and hit enter on my keyboard. So now not only can I use it within this procedure, but I can also come down to private level scope and run it and use it there as well. Okay, so again, procedure level is only when you declare a variable between the sub and the in sub. It can only be used, that variable, within this procedure. Private level is when you can use the variable for any procedure on this one code module. You just have to come up to the top and declare it at the top. Okay, but I do have one other module to show you. So head over to Module 2, and you can see here is another example. And this sub-procedure here also has a message box that's going to call on scope test. So when I click inside here and go to run it, again, I get that compile error. Let me go ahead and get out of break mode here. I get that compile error because the variable is now private. It's available for just one module. But if I want to use it here as well in this module, what I need to do is go back to Module 1, and then change this from dim to public. All right, I'll go back to module 2, and I will run this one more time, and there we go. So again, your 3 levels of scope. You have procedure level, where the variable is declared inside the procedure and can only be used in that procedure. You've got private level, where the variable is declared at the top of the screen in the general declarations and can be used for any procedure in that module. And then you have public level, where the variable is declared as public at the top of a module and can be used in any module.